Good morning. My name is Heather. We are here this morning at City Hall. This is terribly exciting. Item 6C on the agenda, the LA Animal Services Commissioners meeting. There is an introduction to ban rodeos in the city of Los Angeles.
You know, it's very interesting that we've all been here and so many people in this room have sat through those appeals that we had earlier. And if you're anything like me, we went through a lot of different emotional states. But hopefully you share my view, which is that that each one of those cases demonstrates the level of respect, love, care, and concern that we have for companion animals. They matter to us. So we go through a tremendous amount of process if one of them is hurt or injured. My belief is that same level of compassion, concern, and care should extend to all animals. And both these next two initiatives involve animals that aren't necessarily being kept in our shelters. And that's, you know, we're the Department of Animal Services. We're not the Department of Companion Animal Services. And I want to say this to the animal rights community. It really feels like for the first time, at least in my career as an animal rights advocate, that the wind is at our backs. Almost every week, another great initiative is proposed or passes. I've been to City Hall for press conferences like 5 times in the last 2 months for incredible initiatives that have been put forth or that have been passed unanimously or almost unanimously by City Council. This is an incredible time to be an animal rights advocate, but I think everyone in this room knows we have only begun. We have just scratched the surface of what needs to happen. But Senator Ben Husso, who introduced this particular initiative, is somebody who is really being brave, stepping forward. The community needs to have his back. I believe this commission should have his back. And certainly we need to care about the fact. I think one of the things that's so upsetting about the practice of using animals for entertainment is that we're literally cheering and applauding, and we're teaching children to be delighted by the unbelievable mistreatment of animals. What's happening behind the scenes is so incredibly cruel and unconscionable, and yet we're applauding it, paying money for it, and celebrating it. So we have to take a look at our own practices and decide, is that humane? Is that sustainable? What can be done about it? And right now, with the wind at our backs, we are in a position where it really looks like the state legislature is going to take this seriously and pass this initiative and make a difference for these animals. And I am so excited the commission is hearing this. I look forward to the board report, which I believe will be very short. And I look forward to the comments from the public as well.
So we have cards.
We have 2 cards on this item. The first speaker is Jeff Fleiss, followed by David Buchanan.
Well, I'm not going to take up too much time.
You want to let the camera put it on you?
No, I'm going to put it on you. Yeah, I'm not going to take up David's time, but he can have my time. But I wholeheartedly support this bill. Thank you.
Sounds a little like a no-brainer, but obviously I support this bill. I think that confinement of animals just alone is enough in this case to warrant support for the bill that's going to be in front of the state. And I think that the more support that they can show, the more likelihood the state is going to act on it. So I'm very much in favor of this.
Thank you.
So I think it's a really important bill. We heard in regards to the party houses at one point from Council Member Root trying to deal with that, where they were bringing in lions and tigers and abusing them at party houses in the hills. So clearly this will help that effort as well. So there's no other comments. I give you the honor of making the motion.
I move that the commission make a recommendation to support Senate Bill number 313, prohibiting the use of wild and exotic animals in traveling animal acts.
I second it. There's a motion by Commissioner Wilson, a second by Commissioner Garcia. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes with 5 ayes.
Okay. So our final item, which was also recommended by Commissioner Wilson, is to recommendation to the city council to amend the LA Municipal Code to prohibit rodeo events in the city of Los Angeles.
Yes, this, this bill, just to summarize, I mean, what this bill is working on is people riding bulls, and then you have to ask yourself, what do you have to really do to make a bull buck and carry on the way they do? Calf riding, and people who are weigh as much or more than a calf, maybe riding them, trying to bring in a wild cow to show that you can milk her. I mean, these are abusive behaviors, honestly. So there's a lot of things that are done in these events that are dangerous not only to the animals who are being used in the events, but they're very dangerous to the people who are doing it as well. So there's a lot of reason that this is not an appropriate activity for the city of Los Angeles.
So do you want to introduce?
Yes, we have an expert witness here today, Heather Hamza. She has been, she has been a nurse for nearly 30 years, has worked as a nurse anesthetist. She's worked with shock trauma and emergency department and level 1 trauma centers, and she is deeply familiar with treating massive injuries in humans. And one of the reasons that I think she became involved in this issue is because she saw the same injuries deliberately inflicted upon innocent animals at rodeos. I want to thank her for bringing this to my attention, and that was the inspiration for asking for this. And before she speaks, I just want to point out in terms of the commission that in 2012, this department recommended the prohibition of bullhooks and other instruments designed to inflict pain for the purposes of training or controlling elephants participating in performances in circuses. And the LA City Council's support of this recommendation led to the banning of this and similar instruments, not only in the city, but ultimately in the state. So this is a small commission, even though it's a very, we have a lot of employees and a lot of shelters, but when we pay attention to it, it can very often lead to a groundswell building beyond it. And it's my hope that it really does start here. And Heather, I want to encourage you to come speak, but also to be aware of that the people in the public, the people in this room, when you bring things to our attention, this wouldn't be if it wasn't for Heather. So I really want to encourage the public to bring us your ideas. If we hear them and if we support them, then maybe we can get the ball rolling. And that's what I think this commission can be doing, and that's what I think citizen democracy is all about. Heather Hamza, please.
We're giving Heather 4 minutes.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for allowing us to speak on this critical issue. Los Angeles and now California has made it very clear how we feel about circuses, and circuses and rodeos are actually very much alike. Circuses take wild animals and make them tame. Rodeos take tame animals and make them wild. When large, powerful animals are artificially induced by humans to actually be terrified to death, their bodies respond in manners which places them at very high risk for grave injuries and even death. Horses are known to buck blind. They will come flying out of the chute, which is the holding pen, and they will literally run into walls and kill themselves. We just had a bull riding event at Staples. 2,000-pound bulls, when they come crashing down on their hind legs, they can break their legs, dislocate their legs, break their backs, and become paralyzed. And we all know, just like with racehorses, once these animals can no longer run and buck and jump and act wild, there's no happy ending for them. They're sent to slaughter or they're euthanized at the rodeo. There are also numerous incidents of escaped bulls. I was able to come across 20 such incidents. 10 of these bulls ended up being killed. 8 were shot to death by police. The violence and the cruelty does not end there, unfortunately. There are also roping events, which my colleague will describe, which involve steers and baby calves. Broken necks are very common, and especially with the baby calves. These animals are barely weaned from their mothers, and they come flying out of the chute at 25 to 30 miles an hour, only to be met with a rope around their neck. Then we have steer wrestling, again resulting in massive trauma of steers and horses.
It's very easy to use Google or any internet search, and you will get pages and pages and pages of videos, photos, and testimony about the horrific things that are inflicted upon these innocent animals. In addition to the sanctioned events, which are the ones I just talked about, there are unfortunately a litany of other things that we do to these animals, and they're actually listed in the motion. The wild cow milking, which is actually like gang rape, it's disgusting. And then we have mutton busting, animal scrambles. I mean, the list goes on and on. All of it is hideously cruel and violent, 100% unnecessary. There are rodeo-related injuries that are evident at slaughter. Dr. C.G. Haber, he's he's deceased now, he's a veterinarian with 30 years of experience as a USDA meat inspector. And I'll read his quote directly. This is classic testimony. "The rodeo folks send their animals to the packing houses, where I have seen cattle so extensively bruised that the only areas in which the skin was attached was the head, neck, legs, and belly. I have seen animals with 6 to 8 ribs broken from the spine and at times puncturing the lungs. I have seen as much as 2 to 3 gallons of free blood accumulated under the detached skin. These rodeo animals have fur coats. We don't see their injuries. We don't see the bruises, the broken bones, the hematomas. I have a pile here, which I will leave with you. These are called rodeo reporting forms from the Department of Consumer Affairs. California Penal Code 596.7 states that within 48 hours of the conclusion of rodeo, veterinarians must submit reports. These reports are horrifying. And this is just a sampling. I can email you every single one I have from 2003 till 2018. When you read these reports, you will ask yourself, how on earth is this legal? And the answer is, it doesn't have to be. You all have the power to make a difference and to submit a motion to the LA City Council to say, please, let us not allow rodeos and rodeo-type activity in our beloved City of Angels. Thank you so much for letting me testify.
Thank you.
I think the room can applaud if they want to. I'm just.
Thank you, Roger.
Can I just point out, though, that Heather is supported by a series of letters here, which have been given to the commission that people should be aware of, from Corey Mack, from Frankie May, from Shelley Watkins, from Melanie Shaw, from Kirsten Cluster, from Ingvar Eppeland, from Patty Schenker, from Peggy Larson, Sylvia Curtis, Christy Osana, and Melinda Rodriguez. All of these are people who are experts in their own fields. She also has here some photos, which, because I know there are members of the public right now who are actually recording this. These photos you're not going to be able to see on your cameras, but they just show just the size of these animals, and these are tremendously disturbing photos that show the amount of pain and suffering that goes on, that it's just undeniable. And not only for the animals, but also sometimes for the humans who are riding them. So I want to thank you for a really well-presented presentation.
Do we know how many events are happen each year here in the city of LA?
And where?
Do we have the data for that?
Do you want to come back up, Heather?
Sure.
And the fan base, is it a big fan base? I mean, everybody in LA is watching this? Or?
And they come from out of town.
So just the history behind this, I met with Councilmember Peretz over a year ago, and at the time there weren't any rodeos happening in the city of LA, only in the county of LA. So we have San Dimas, we have Lancaster, there's City of Industry, so there are several rodeos, sanctioned and non-sanctioned in the county, but as far as the city, then they were said, oh, maybe we don't need to act on this, nothing's happening. And then the big PBR came, professional bull riding, came to Staples, and then I said, hey, now we have to do something, because you know what, this is gonna blow the door open for full-blown rodeos. So this event had, it just focused on bull riding. This was just last month.
Yeah.
And there was a big protest. It honestly, because I protested the circus for so many years, it felt like opening night at Ringlings. There were so many activists, and a lot of people. I'm actually friends with an undercover investigator who was inside, and they asked for a show of hands, how many people is it their first time? Half the stadium raised their hands, so half the people didn't even know what it was. They just went because it was something new and exciting and different.
And they're doing that every year, or they just started doing it again?
This just happened, first time in 19 years, that's what they were saying. And they will come back. I mean, once you set up camp in a circuit, you just keep doing the same circuit every year.
Thank you.
We have 8 speakers on this item. The first 2 speakers are Phyllis Darby, followed by David Patan.
Maybe you come.
They want everything down here. Phyllis Darby with the Animal Issues Movement. Yeah, we did all of this before. This is not new. They were outlawed, so forth, and they didn't come back. Maybe I don't know what they put on the books about it at that time. Problem is in enforcing, especially in LA Animal Services, where our officers don't have any experience in real enforcement. There were some humane officers that came in. They were coupled with some LAPD officers that had created a humane society, and they tried to enforce it. One of the ethnic groups was having a bloodless wolf like they were calling it at that time, and they almost killed them. These are armed officers. So you need to have this in place. I'm shocked that this comes as not a report. I mean, where is the ordinance? If this is such a big thing, where is the wording? This is to the department that's supposed to do it. Excuse me, this is the department. So why haven't all these been researched in all the various areas? Los Angeles is not unique in passing something to outlaw them. Why isn't there an attached ordinance that, or a suggested ordinance that will advise the city attorney and the council and the people of what you're trying to do? It's a nice idea, but nice ideas can't be enforced by law. So I would say before you send this anywhere, Ms. Garnett needs to do her work. She's got some experienced officers. We have the Anti-Cruelty Task Force, and you should word what you want so that you know what you're going to need to make it happen. And then as far as it being a good idea, you will not have any resistance with this in the city. It was very easy. All we had to do before was just get out the publicity. And then, like she said, this was almost 20 years ago. So do your job in this department, get your ordinance ready, and then take it in.
Just for the record, there is a motion. It is.
Motion is not enough.
And usually, once the motion passes city council instructs the city attorney's office to write the ordinance.
Right.
Right, we can't write an ordinance without city council instructing us.
I'm David Rutan. Yeah, as I look around, I see there's lots of sporting events in Los Angeles. Some of them are more violent than other ones. There's football games, which is sort of an interesting amount of violence, but all the participants in these other things, boxing, whatever, they are willing participants. And when we have rodeos, of course, half the participants are unwilling. They're not even sure that they're participating in anything, or that there is a sport, quote-unquote sport. And so when I heard about every time I saw a rodeo advertisement, I kept thinking to myself, rodeo in LA, there just seems something wrong about that. It's like, really? It's like, this is a violent sport in Los Angeles? There seems something really unnerving about that. And in some ways, I thought, every time I saw an advertisement, I thought, who's seen this? And this is basically, by having the rodeo here, by doing these things, although no one's saying we condone this, it's kind of like, it's condoned. Hey, we can use animals, we can ride them, we can get on top of them and dominate them, and that's okay. It's acceptable in society. And as we know, with dog abuse or abuse of any animals, this is a perception. It's kind of our belief system. It's okay to ride this bull. Why can't my kid ride the dog for fun? Hey, it's all about using animals. Let's practice blaspheming cats or whatever. It just kind of goes along with the mindset that using animals is okay. So I think that's another reason, obviously because of the actual injuries that occur. I think it's teaching people that having the rodeo here and kind of silently accepting that's here is kind of teaching people that using the animals and dominating them in this fashion is okay. So I urge you to pass the motion.
Thank you.
The next speakers are Corey Mack, followed by Jerry Lynn Burks and Jeffrey Mosner.
Corey had to leave.
Geraldine Burks.
Good morning. My name is Jerry Lynn Burks, and I wanted to read an excerpt from Dr. Peggy Larson. She was a farmer, a bareback rodeo bronc rider, a large animal veterinarian, and she's written some descriptions of some of the activities that go on. So calf roping is considered the cruelest rodeo events are roping events. In calf roping, baby calves are used. If they were not in the rodeo, these calves would still be with their mothers on pasture. Weighing less than 300 pounds, they are forced to run at speeds excess of 25 miles per hour when roped. The reason they run at such high speeds is that they are tormented in the holding chute. Their tails are twisted, their tails are rubbed back and forth over the steel chute bars, and they are shocked with 5,000-volt electric prods until the gate opens. They burst out of the chute at top speed only to be stopped short or clotheslined with a choking rope around the neck. They are often injured and some are killed. It is also the case that the rodeo calf ropers must spend a great deal of time practicing in order to become proficient. Calves sold to practice pens are roped over and over until they are injured or killed. Dr. T.K. Hardy, a veterinarian who is also a calf roper, was quoted in Newsweek stating that calf roping is an expensive sport and that 2 or 3 calves are injured per practice session and must be replaced. In steer tripping, as with calf roping, steer tripping, commonly called steer busting, puts a rodeo animal at extreme risk of injury or death. The steers weighing approximately 700 pounds are forced to run at a top speed while the roper throws the rope around the steer's horns. The roper then flips the rope over the right side of the steer while turning his galloping horse to the left. Within a split second, the steer's head and neck are jerked 180 degrees or more, causing the animal to be violently tripped, rolling and dragged for approximately 30 feet. That's a 700-pound body being dragged by the neck, horns digging into the dirt. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeffrey Mosner will be followed by Audrey Harvey and Amanda Lundberg.
Good morning again, Jeffrey Mosner. I grew up in Colorado, so I've seen my share of rodeos when I was a kid. Rodeos are cruelty to animals for entertainment. Please look at the pictures on the flyer that Heather gave you. Look at the picture of the calf being roped and its neck being distended. Most likely that calf's, or many other calves' neck was broken or its trachea was severed. Look at the picture below that of the dead calf lying there. On the other side, look at the calf that is being stretched, pulled apart by 2 horses. Horses don't want to do that. They're being forced to do it. The people involved in rodeos don't fare well either. They're continually injured and very underpaid. They're in terrible physical condition when they get older, but at least their participation is voluntary. Not so for the animals. I like country music, and there's a song, "Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys." Some of the mamas haven't been successful, so let's give them some help. Please pass a resolution asking the city council to ban rodeos in Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. I was waiting for you to break out in song.
But there's one line in there, let them be doctors or lawyers. I'm not so sure about the lawyers part of it.
Audrey Harvey, Amanda Lundberg.
Good morning, or good afternoon now. My name is Audrey Harvey. I'm the campaigns manager for Last Chance for Animals, known as LCA. A Los Angeles-based animal rights nonprofit that's been working for over 35 years to make real change for animals. As you know, last month, the professional bull riders showcased their exhibition of animal cruelty at the Staples Center for the first time ever. And on February 23rd, LCA was there to protest the barbaric and cruel sport of bull riding. Over 100 supporters gathered outside the arena to protest PBR's exploitation of animals for entertainment and profit. On December 22nd, 2018, in preparation for PBR's debut at the Staples Center, LCA launched a petition on change.org calling on LA City Council to ban rodeos and rodeo-type activities like bull riding in the city of LA. As of today, the petition has garnered over 15,000 signatures in support of this ban. The city of LA has become a national leader in protecting the rights and welfare of animals, and that can be seen with the recent fur ban and the legislation introduced to outlaw wild and exotic animals in circuses. On behalf of LCA and our supporters, we strongly urge you to support a motion to ban rodeos and rodeo-type activities in LA. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Amanda Lember. Rodeo promoters argue that they must treat their animals well in order to keep them healthy and usable. But this assertion is belied by a statement that Dr. T.K. Hardy, a Texas veterinarian and sometimes steer roper, made to Newsseek. I keep 30 head of cattle around for practice at $200 a head. You can cripple 3 or 4 in an afternoon. It gets to be a pretty expensive hobby. Unfortunately, there's a steady supply of new animals available to rodeo producers when other animals have been worn out or fatally injured. The benchmark of humane is not whether an activity is legal or illegal. An example is slaughterhouses. They are perfectly legal, yet common sense dictates that one would probably not decide to ask for a tour. Instead, the true definition of humane is if you would want it done to yourself, your children, your spouse, or your family pets. Every state has animal anti-cruelty statutes. Sadly, the legal definition of animal does not necessarily include all living creatures. Rodeo animals are also conveniently exempt because they are livestock. This means that they are property and are not afforded the same rights, laws, and protections as a family dog or cat. There are some laws that protect rodeo animals, but they are grossly inadequate as well as poorly enforced. California Penal Code 596.7 states, "The rodeo management shall ensure that no electric prod or similar device is used on any animal once the animal is in the holding chute, unless necessary to protect the participants and spectators of the rodeo." Animals are routinely electrocuted with 5,000 volts of electricity while inside the chute. Shark has countless videos of this happening, even in California where it is illegal. Perhaps the most egregious example of this was caught on tape just a few months ago in San Dimas, where a pregnant mare was shocked repeatedly. So not only are these cowboys using a pregnant horse for riding and bucking, but she and her fetus are subject to the torment of electrocution. Thank you.
The last speaker is Jeff Fleiss.
Hello again. Is anybody here for the rodeo? Oh, I'm going to speak on behalf of the rodeo. Yes. You know, where else can young, impressionable, well, indulge me for a second, where else can young, impressionable kids get the chance to learn all these sadistic skills, such as like hog tying baby animals and such, and practicing on their siblings, and, you know, breaking animals' legs, you know, what else do they do to them? They paralyze them quite often. You know, I've never seen another sport where they have like a ambulance on hand just for the animals' sake. You know, it's crazy. The animals aren't willing participants. And on the flip side, you know, I wholeheartedly, again, believe in this bill, this ban. It's a really good thing. And I'd like to say that, you know, some of our recently departed animal rights activists from the city, Kobe Sigenthaler, Matt Phelps, and Bill Dyer, would be smiling upon this ban too. Thank you.
Thank you. This is pretty much a slam dunk here. I would just make one slight change to the motion where it says city direct the appropriate city staff, including staff from animal services, to help prepare an ordinance. So with that
I'd be amenable to that, sure, yeah.
So entertain a motion with.
Well, I just wanted to thank everybody for speaking so eloquently. It's interesting, even in my own process, I was a little bit anxious about hearing details, and I almost wanted to shield my fellow commissioners from these facts. And listening to you, it made me conscious of how foolish that is. One of the reasons why we succeeded in passing the bullet ban, which ultimately led to the closing of Barnum and Bailey, was we needed the public to be aware of what was actually happening. We have to talk about this. We have to. The people have to be aware of it, because I do believe ultimately when people are faced with reality of what their choices are, that people are good enough that by and large they will make the right choice. So, you know, the winds of change blow from west to east. You know, if we can really make this happen here, and if we can get City Council to pass this, which I hope we will, then other cities will follow suit. And I think we can end up ultimately doing wonderful things for animals and for our very souls. So it is an honor to make a motion to recommend that we amend the Los Angeles Municipal Code to prohibit rodeo events in the city of Los Angeles.
I second the motion.
With the amendment.
With the amendment, as Commissioner Gross suggested, that the LAAS staff also be included in making this proposal.
And just before the vote, I wanted to thank you, Commissioner Wolfson, for bringing these two important items before us. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So there's a motion by Commissioner Wilson, a second by Commissioner Garcia. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion passes with 4 ayes.
Okay. On to the City Council. So that concludes our agenda. Thank you everyone for coming and participating and inputting. Our next meeting will be held on March 26th, right here, 9 a.m. at City Hall, room 1060. Is everybody able to come to that? Okay, so that said, our meeting is adjourned at 11:41 a.m.